So we have had this really wonderful walking with the Rishi morning, have we not? And as I have been teaching on the great law of divine fixation and the anticipation of the divine, living in that anticipation of positives, the beauty and the perfection of the divine in your life, that when that abidance becomes unwavering, you have entered the first stage of enlightenment, what is oftentimes called kalpa, but the first stage of enlightenment. And so I want to correlate something that is a bit more classical in spiritual understanding, a bit more traditional in spiritual understanding, of the way in which the practice, the abidance in expecting the divine and anticipating divine positives, no matter what the appearances may be in your circumstances, the things that rise and fall and come and go. Do you see those temporal things? That the anticipation of the perfection of the divine, the benevolence of the divine, living in that anticipation is a place of liberation. It is mukti. It is liberation, do you see? And that is where the bliss and joy of the effortlessness of radiance, of illumination, truly begins to open the doors and invite the divine into your life with ever greater frequency, increase, and intensity of manifestation, you see. But I wanted to speak about faith. And if you look at the divine quality of faith, or the sadhana of faith, with the expectation or embrace or anticipation of divine positives, what I truly wish to perhaps make clear is that the practice of faith, which enters into expectation of attachments filled, do you see what I'm saying? So faith with attachment, faith with agenda, faith with a cunning crafted from the intellect trajectory of my way or the highway, that truly is not faith. So when there is faith with fanatical idealism, that is truly not faith. And so many souls are lost in the fervor of an idea of faith that is laced with attachments, that is laced with the baggage of I want my way and my agenda or no way, and that is what you might call a split intention or a counter stream that is running just beneath that perhaps ideal of the practice of faith or the presence of faith or the holiness of faith. The holiness of faith has no attachments, do you see, that are the product of the ego mind or the persona. Because can the perfection, the benevolence of the divine truly be second-guessed? Is there any way possible that any ego anywhere on this planet could possibly second-guess the perfection of the divine, the unfolding of the divine, the benevolence, the grace, the miracles of the divine? So you see, there is this qualification or anticipation of divine positives and faith. The faith that it will be so is a beautiful, complementary sadhana, practice, reality, place of abidance. But it is the faith without attachment, the faith without ego attachment, ego agenda, the faith without the self-righteous nature of the human ego being laced into the supreme holiness of faith. do you see, that is supplanted when the divine fixation on the anticipation of positives, divine anticipation, if you will. So the divine walks through the door, and the divine offers precisely what is needed in the moment to cause the greatest amount of expansion, the greatest amount of learning, the greatest amount of upliftment over time. And so that is the place where you must understand that faith that is filled with ego agenda, faith that is filled with attachment to an end result or an outcome, that does not let go of the intention, no matter how beautiful or ideal or positive or benevolent you feel your intention might be. It is the letting go and offering that intention into divine creation and giving that intention into the pure heart and hands of the purely divine that brings about that abidance and the effortlessness of anticipating the divine, anticipating that positives will come your way. And so do you understand the difference between ego-based faith, which is tainted with attachment and agenda, and it becomes ever more fanatical with idealism and self-righteousness? Do you see that it hardly can even be called faith, but it has been that compromised by the human ego? But abidance and the anticipation of divine positives, it is unknown what outcome, end result, and the idea of end result is rather absurd in any case, if you see, since creation is continually unfolding. The only thing that is permanent in creation is the nature of the divine, but within that divinity is an ever-unfolding perfection. So let yourself be gifted with the benevolence of the divine by anticipating divine positives. And yes, by establishing faith in your heart, in your mind, in your being. But it is the faith that lets go in the divine anticipation of positives, even though that positive may be gloriously as yet unknown to you. But that is what gives it the freedom to supersede your wildest dreams of what you think your desired end result or agenda might have been to begin with. Do you see? So just to summarize, that faith that is egotistical at its core, that has the undercurrent, if you will, of attachment and agenda and self-righteousness and fanatical fervor, that kind of faith is surely to disappoint. But it is the faith that is wedded, that is unified with abidance in the anticipation of divine positives as the state of consciousness in which you dwell. It is there that the perfecting effortlessness of the divine truly becomes manifest in your life. And so allow the holiness of true faith and the abidance and the anticipation of divine positives to open the way. And shall we all be in joyous witnessing of that which truly does unfold as it is bestowed and bequeathed and given to us, gifted to us by the purely divine. The purely divine.